Hi, I'm Jed Sims of Totally Optimized Projects, and in this session we're going to look at how to lead, not follow in a project governance role. Project governance is about leadership. It's about making sure you get the results that you want. And as we saw in the last session, it's easy to just follow along with the crowd and let your project fail. That is not project governance. That is not accountability. That is not what makes success. So the prerequisites to being successful in a project governance role, as we've discussed, is to know what to do, when, why and how, the 4 key dimensions. To focus on the 4 V's, the 4 dimensions of value: financial, staff, customer and shareholder value. And the need to choose professionalism over hoped for results. You wouldn't run other parts of your operation on hope, and there's no need to do that with project governance either. But how do you learn? I mean, I've been in this game for over 40 years. I've had every role you can conceive of in relation to project governance. But when I was first a sponsor, I failed. My first project that I sponsored was an unmitigated disaster, even though I had 20 years of project experience behind me. And that didn't help. In fact, project governance is nothing to do with project management. Project management is like car mechanics to driving. Yes, it might be interesting to know how the car works, but you don't need to know what's going on under the bonnet in order to drive safely and get to your destination. In a governance role, you're driving the car, not tinkering with it. So, trying to learn governance by trial and error or osmosis and just sitting in meetings is costly and dangerous. You need to find out what to do, when to do it, why and how, and it's taken me many years to get there. So what I'm going to do in this session is give you 10 rules for project governance. If you remember these 10 rules, you will be set up very well in terms of delivering successful projects to your organization. So the primary measure of success is the full delivery of the agreed desired business outcomes, benefits and value. Notice the word project isn't in that sentence. It's not about delivering the project. It is about delivering the project in such a way that you will achieve the full delivery of the agreed business outcomes, benefits and value. That is the key thing. At the end of the day, you need to know what you're trying to achieve in the business, what the business will look like, and defined in clear, specific, measurable terms. This is what it's going to look like when it's working just right, and make sure that everything you're doing on and off the project is going to achieve those outcomes, benefits and value. So that's the key measure of success. And as I said in the previous one, when we've looked at projects, we looked at 59 projects from 26 different companies, I think it was, to see what they had done, and none had defined their outcomes, benefits and value in full. None. Got a bit better since then, but not much. The number of projects that achieve this is 5%. 95% of projects fail to achieve this, the number one measure of success. That tells you that something's wrong. Something needs improving. The second rule I thought would be useful is the business case should be seen as a two-way commitment, not a dash for cash. The business case is where the sponsor says to the organization, I will give you these outcomes, benefits and value if you give me these resources, which is people, funds, facilities, whatever. And both sides of that equation should be measured. Did the sponsor deliver the outcomes, benefits and value? Did the organization provide the resources as requested? That is what you need to get a result. Because the whole point is that a project is a temporary endeavor, something that's set up to achieve a goal and doesn't exist. So you have to justify and say, I need these resources to deliver this value. And then of course the project resources disappear and we go back to business as usual. So the business case should be defining, this is what I need to deliver this value. Then the investment committee can see, well, that's a priority. If it's just a dash for cash, then the business case just becomes a way of working round the hurdle of the NPV or ROI or whatever it is, and just get the money and get going. No, it should be very clearly defining what the value to be delivered is. Now, because costs and are a major part of business management, people gravitate to the financial value in the business case. And then in many organizations, they lock that business case financial value of the benefits into future budgets. You say you're going to save 10 million in 2000 and X, right, we'll take 10 million out of that budget. There are 101 reasons why that is not good practice, but the one I want to deal with here is the financial value of the benefits is the least stable element of the project. Your financial value is made up of calculations based on data, estimates, assumptions, extrapolations, guesses at times. And some of those factors are within your control, but some of them are not. If interest rates or exchange rates or market size are all factors in your benefit calculations, or numbers of customers, they can change during the course of the project and change the value of the financial benefits without any doing or blame to the project. On one particular project, due to some massive adverse publicity, the client lost 50% of their customers in 3 months. They deserted them to competitors. Now, the particular project we were consulting on was all about customers and customer adoption. And so we therefore had to go back to the financial value of the benefits and say, well, if we've only got half of X now, half the number of customers, what does the benefits look like now? Now, in this particular case, the benefits were so high that it was still viable, but quite often that may make the project unviable. So the financial value is something that needs to be tracked from day one, from the day that the calculations are done. Are they right? If we're estimating a growth in sales or whatever, are those sales being made? You need to track the financial value of the benefits and at least quarterly say, well, is this project still viable? With the costs to deliver where they are today and the value of the benefits where they are today, regardless of where they were in the business case, is this project still viable? Now, we did a lot of research with project managers as to what they wanted from project sponsors, and the number one requirement a project sponsor has of a project sponsor is access. A number of project managers talked about how they'd never, ever met their sponsor one-on-one. We suggested standing outside their office at 7 o'clock in the morning. We were accused of promoting stalking. But the point is, as a sponsor, your project manager is your arms and legs. They are the one actually delivering. You need to be accessible so they can ask you questions, check things with you, make sure that you are giving them feedback on their performance. But the key thing they want is access, such that when they do have something they want to bounce off you or ask you or get you to make a decision, they can get to you within a reasonable time. Good sponsors will give their project managers their mobile number and say, basically, ring or text me anytime and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. Those who've never met their project managers are not leading but following. Now, a lot of organisations obviously have steering committee reporting and project status reporting and project progress reporting. A lot of them got Gantt charts and other sort of wonderful things and colours and blobs and whatever. There's only one way to measure progress: the delivery of 100% complete, quality verified deliverables to schedule. Each month, you need to know what should have been 100% complete this month, and was it? That is as simple as it gets. If it wasn't, then you're late. If it's on the critical path, that's important. But I read many years ago an article that said if you see a Gantt chart on a project, you know it's in trouble. which appealed to me as a concept, but I didn't really understand what it meant. But what it means is a Gantt chart is a useful tool when you're planning the project, but not a useful tool after that. What you now need to say is, well, if whatever was due last month, did we 100% delivery? Not 99%, not 95%, 100% complete. Having written several books, I can tell you that writing that final page is often the most difficult. Or reading it through one more time for checking everything is the most difficult. 100% complete. We looked at a project some years ago where they were 3 months into phase 2. And when we looked at what they were actually working on, 25% of the effort was going into finishing phase 1. The steering committee thought it was all done because they weren't measuring 100% complete. Quality verified. Not only have we completed it, but have we completed it to the quality required? As Jerry Weinberg, a US consultant, once said, if quality is an option, all else is possible. If we don't have to worry about the quality, we can achieve any other measure you want. So you need to make sure that not only is it delivered, but it's to the quality required, which is not perfection, but too fit for purpose. All projects are change projects. Now, a lot of project managers have apoplexy when I say this, but all projects, you're trying to move from where you are today to some different future state, to a changed future state. Therefore, they are change projects. It's all about change. Therefore, rather than seeing projects as the project with a change management stream, it's actually change projects with a project management stream. I'll say that again because it's important. It's not a project with a change management stream, it's a change project with a project management stream. It's all about changing the organization. And when you adopt a change management mindset in this sense, then you can look to make changes earlier and throughout the project. I was reviewing a project recently that had been going for 18 months. And one of the key goals of this project was to move the number of automatically reordered spare parts from around about 5% to 95%, so that they had just the right number of spare parts, they optimized the inventory holdings, etc., etc. And obviously, if you're moving from 5% to 95%, you need to gather a lot more information. I asked, well, you were 5% when you started, where are you now? And you're only about 2 or 3 months from implementation. And I said, oh, we're still at 5%. I said, well, why haven't you changed that? Why haven't you been working your way towards that 95%, gathering all the information, collecting the data, so as you install the new system, you've got a lot of the benefits ready to go? Because they were thinking about change management as a separate stream. And talking of change management, it's easy until it isn't. Well, planning all this, thinking about all this is easy, and then things start getting hard. Politics start coming up. Key people leave or object, or something else happens that causes a problem. That's when the governance team needs to take a leadership role. Are you going to allow the change management side to slide, or insist and get the results? This is when the governance team leads and says, no, we've got to get the outcomes, the benefits and the value. We've got to take charge of this change management to make sure it happens. Then on an individual basis, when you believe something's wrong, say something. Now, I read some research some years ago that said if you are the lone voice, you'll stick to your guns around about, I think it was 8% of the time. If there's 2 of you, it's about 83% of the time. But when we interview steering committee members, in particular for after projects failed, a lot of them say, well, I didn't think that was the right decision. I was worried about that and I didn't really agree about that. We say, well, what did you do about it? What did you say? Nothing. Abdication, not leadership. If you believe something's wrong, you don't agree with a decision, you've got to say something. In one particular steering committee where I was a steering committee member, we got to a point where it became quite clear that the sponsor was actually using the steering committee to avoid implementing this system by constantly throwing up new concerns and issues and so on. And I'd engineered it such that we had basically an A or B decision. And when they couldn't make that decision, I closed the project down. But I wasn't going to allow it to run for another year, just wasting money because the executive didn't want to make a mistake, which is what was driving it. So if you believe something is wrong, say something. Now, there are plenty of health checks around. A lot of them are useless. A lot of them are absolutely useless. I was talking to the head of an EPMO in a major bank, and he said, we now have a health check on every project, and we budget about $20,000. And I thought, well, that's useless. You can't do a decent health check for $20,000. The health check shouldn't be worried about compliance. Yes, compliance is important, but get the auditors to look at that, but that's not make or break for the project. It's not about following the methodology. Yes, you want people to do the right things in the right time, in the right order, but it's really about, have we got the capability on the project and the business to deliver the desired business outcomes, benefits and value in full? That's the question a health check's looking at. Do we actually know what the outcomes, benefits and value are? That's the starting point. Is everything we're doing geared and aligned to and contributing to those outcomes, benefits and value? Do we have the capacity to get there from where we are today? That's what the health check should be looking at, not are we following the methodology. That's useless. And finally, your role in accountability continues on after the end of the project until the business outcomes, benefits and value are realised in full. Governance doesn't end when the project ends, it ends when the benefits are being realised. That is why we had the 4 values. This is about delivering value. That's the key role. If it's just about delivering the project, well, we could just leave that to the project manager. But the project is a means to an end. The end is the delivery of the business outcomes, benefits and value, and that's when your role finishes. In the governance training, we talk about the Eureka Tower, which was, and possibly still is, the tallest residential tower in the world. And the developer was the sponsor. And when he finished with that building after 7 years, it took 7 years, there were still some apartments that hadn't been sold. There were still some shops that hadn't been let. But he made sure that when he left and said, right, I'm finished with this now, that there were already people and plans in place to finish it off, to sell the last apartments, to lease the last shops. He didn't just say, oh, well, near enough is good enough. So your accountability continues on till you either fully realise these benefits and value, or you have everything in place to make sure they are realised. So these are just the 10 major rules for project governance. And this is what you need to learn to recognise and manage. And as they say, if you think education's expensive, just try ignorance. So here I just want to introduce briefly the top Project Governance Centre of Expertise. Now this has been designed over 15 years as a comprehensive resource for those as sponsors and steering committees. And it acknowledges what we call the 40-40-20 rule. There's 40% of what you need to know in the project governance that you know. There's 40% you need to know that you think you know. That either needs to be confirmed or corrected, and in many cases corrected. And there's 20% that you don't know, that you need to know, but you don't know what that is. It's an unknown. So there's going to be some parts of the governance centre of expertise, know that, been there, fine. Others will just colour, change the perspective, alter the understanding of what's important or why it's important. It's available in the cloud, so it's available anywhere, anytime, on any device. You can even access it in meetings, so as issues arise, you can find that topic in the indices and go straight to it and say, what are the issues we should be dealing with here? I know in one particular steering committee where I actually taught one guy as a sponsor on another project, and he was sitting on another steering committee, And they'd actually organise an end of project dinner after the meeting. And he looked at his materials and said, actually, we haven't quite finished this project yet. There are these things on the checklist for the end of the project which we haven't done. And to his credit, his boss, who was the sponsor of the other project, said, you're right, we'll cancel the dinner, we'll go on for another month, we'll make sure all these things are finished, and then we'll have the celebration. And then they went around the organisation telling everyone how well they'd finished off the project and how this was the best finished off project they'd ever had. The Centre of Expertise is available as a personal or corporate resource. You can either subscribe to it individually or the organisation can subscribe to it for their executives. And it's easy to access. There are multiple indices by topic, by different stages, by understandings, how-tos and a whole range of other things. So that you can get either, it's not something you read end to end, but you can access and say, we're at this stage of the project, what are the issues? The project's gone red, what does that mean? We're talking about getting in consultants. What do I need to be concerned about? What questions should I be asking? So going back to the point we make at the end of each session, you have this choice, professional or amateur, knowledge or hope, focus on the business or the project, deliver the value or just make budget. Hopefully you'll understand that this is a professional role that relies on knowledge and knowing what to do. Successful project governance is about leadership, knowing what to do, when, why and how. And in this session we've given you 10 rules that you should remember to be successful. They will put you ahead of most people in a governance role. So our key message here is project governance is a leadership role that can be easily learned. It really is that simple.